Sorry.
No, I mean that's the whole reason why we're on. Hello, folks. We're late because we were chatting. We should be doing live, not just behind our walls. So, welcome everybody to Nina Goes Live, LinkedIn Straight Talk for coaches and creators. I'm here with Angela Dunz, and obviously we're just chatting away, having a great time, and like, oh, maybe going live would be a thing to do. So Angela is also a LinkedIn person, and thank you so much for agreeing to come and join me today. Um, why don't you introduce yourself ever so briefly so we have some context on who you are and why I invited you, and then we'll dive right in.
Well, I call myself an accidental entrepreneur because I actually moved to California to get a director of marketing or a CMO job, and thankfully that didn't happen. I love working with LinkedIn, and I've been doing this now since 2013. So I was a business development consultant when it was still basically a job seekers platform. So I was a little bit of a renegade back then, and people really didn't understand. But I love what I do. I love helping solopreneurs, small firms, small businesses. Most of marketing is geared for enterprise. If you read things anywhere, it's all geared for people with really big budgets, deep pockets. And it's hard to translate that to a solopreneur who's wearing all of the hats. And so what I really try to do with my practice is translate all of that stuff into things that are easily actionable for high-level professionals.
Yeah. So you're talking about high level professionals. I just want to jump in there because you actually have, which I'm a little jealous of, and then not, I am and I'm not. You have a more or less a vertical, right? You have sort of niched in. So tell us a little bit about that vertical because I think it's pretty interesting choice.
Yeah, attorneys, they they are a very interesting crowd. They know what they want, but they don't know anything about marketing. And so you really have to help them a lot with the language and the timing. Their brains don't work that way. They're
Yeah.
much more analytical. They are taught different things in school. And marketing and business development, I really wish they would begin to stress that because they are really handicapped when they get out of college on how to run a business. And these days, things are going towards small firms
Yeah.
instead of the enterprise law. So they're great to work with because they know what they want. They just don't always know how to communicate that. And so I try to meet them more than halfway and help them figure out their own personal brand. And personal brand is also a hard sell to attorneys. They like to hide behind the company brand.
Yeah.
And, we do business with people, not with logos and business names.
Yeah.
So it really is your special something that develops that trust so that
Yeah.
you can air your dirty laundry and actually tell that attorney what he needs to know or she needs to know to really
Yeah.
help you. And high level professionals also, they're really embarrassed if they don't know everything.
Yeah.
And marketing is not the way their brains work. It's the way my brain works. And that's why we make such a good match.
Yeah, and I think that what you're bringing up is very true. The wanting to hide, which a lot of us have that if you want to call it an issue, but the wanting to hide behind the company. I mean, I saw you're also you're a former photographer. I do photography now, and with being like I really love being behind the camera. I love producing. I love being the person who sort of controls everything, but from behind the scenes, and having to show up for myself and my company, and doing things like these lives. That didn't happen overnight, right? That was
Man, it's still a challenge every time.
yeah, definitely. So, so attorneys, was that something that just happened to you? Was it something where you were like, okay, this is a niche I'm going to pursue? How did that come about?
Well, it's a combination of both. I mean, it is something that just sort of, the universe pushes us in the direction where we can have the most impact, right?
Yeah.
And so, it's a combination of things. But what really happened was right after the pandemic started, I had been doing webinars with two of my friends. One of them is specifically a business development coach for large enterprise attorney firms. He takes on their new partners and really helps them build their own book of business, and does both group coaching and individual coaching. And then my other friend he's a TED Talk coach. So he's a speaking and executive presence coach. And so we had put together a series of 3 different webinars. So you first spend 20 minutes with Doug, and he would tell you all about business development. And then you spend 20 minutes with me, and
Mhm.
I tell you all about how to put together your personal brand on your LinkedIn profile. And then you spend 20 minutes with David learning, how to run meetings, how to really build your business through your speaking and presence.
Mhm.
And we also gave them like 20 minutes in between. Attorneys love to meet each other. So um, you put
Networking,
together
yep.
some very focused, breakout sessions and let them get to know each other. Well, the third one of these webinars, Baker McKenzie came and bought the whole thing, 150 seats. And
Wow.
so I spent the next 2 years as an advisor working for Baker McKenzie, and I spoke at their 2022 America's Conference down
Yep.
in LA. So
Yep.
it-
Wow.
that was a turning point right there.
Mhm.
Because if you can, attorneys, the first thing they always ask me is, have you ever worked with an attorney before? Because we're different. And it's not any different, really. I mean, it's the application that's different, yes, but the tactics and the strategy and
Yep.
all of
Yep.
that is exactly the same. But once I was able to say, well, I work with Baker McKenzie, that opened a lot of doors, really
Yep.
broke the dam open, and I've never really looked back. I love working with attorneys.
Yep.
When you get results for them, you're their friend for life.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. A quick technical question. Are you hearing an echo?
No, I'm not. I
Okay.
wonder if anybody that's listening is hearing an echo.
Yeah, I have my window open on another, I just closed it, but I'm still hearing it. All right, I'm just gonna try to ignore it. I hope nobody else hears it. Actually, hey, Melissa, if you're still listening, can you let me know in the comments whether you're hearing an echo? And thanks for dialing in, Melissa. Melissa is my co-host on my other show that I have, An Art for Life. So she was able to dial in today. So the questions I have for you, which is where we sort of got off on a tangent before we went live, is talking a little bit about since we're on the topic of LinkedIn. By the way, that is a question I always ask off the bat, and I kind of skipped it because I immediately sort of tagged on what you were saying about during your introduction. Why specifically LinkedIn for you?
Well, everybody asks that. And, in the beginning, everybody was like, Angela, people don't use LinkedIn for business development. You're going to starve. You're going to have to do Facebook and
Yeah.
Instagram. And, back then it was more um, Snapchat and
Wow. Yeah.
Tumblr with some different platforms. And I was like, no, I'm really not interested in those. And you know, I love Facebook for friends and family,
Mhm.
but I have never liked it for business. Never. I have just never been one of those. And so many coaches really went, whole hog on Facebook, and then they changed it. So it really doesn't help business pages much at all anymore. To have a presence, it depends on your profession. There are some professions that do okay. Yeah, no, I was really, I don't know. I had just gotten an MBA. I think part of that was I really wanted to go with the highest level professional platform. And LinkedIn truly is the only
Yep.
B2B platform. It was designed to connect the right business people for the right opportunities. That was the whole design. It
Mhm.
is not B2C. although you are starting to see Coach purses and Gucci and and I saw an American Family thing the other day. It is starting to get more B2C.
Yeah.
Um, but it really was designed to be a social platform for business opportunities, B2B.
Yeah.
And that really appealed to me. And I was like, what are the possibilities? What can you do? I mean, I built my whole business without a website.
Yeah.
I just have never been able to see my way to a website. It just, I don't know what my my big malfunction is there,
Yeah.
but I love being able to use LinkedIn for my business. And the American Bar Association says that 94% of people referred to attorneys look at their LinkedIn profile first, not
Yeah.
the website,
Yeah.
because we all know attorney websites are awful.
Yes. Well, they're well designed. They paid somebody a lot of money, and that's and then no real information. I totally agree.
They're starting to change.
Yeah. And to your point, people want to work with people, not with the pretty face that is the company with a logo. And
All the guys standing in front of the building going,
yeah.
we've been super lawyers for 14 years in a row. And yeah, no.
Yeah. Yeah. So, by the way, thank you to everybody who is giving us feedback on the mic. Duly noted. And I'm trying to troubleshoot, but it seems to be better right now. So let's hope it stays that way. Randy has a question. I'll get to it in a hot second. So don't go anywhere, Randy. Because I had a follow-up question, what you just said, which now like went over my went in and out of my head. Lawyers. Oh yeah. So LinkedIn, which is a question I always find really interesting, and I agree with you 100% that for me, LinkedIn is just the one place where it's very clear what the conversation is. I'm not also looking at shoes or at my next art class or at a new plush toy for my dog, right? I'm very clear I'm here for business. And I kind of like the honestness of that very clear conversation. We're here to do business. So the more so, I would imagine you were shocked when, I don't know when it was last year, you got a letter from LinkedIn. So tell us about that a little bit.
Well, the letter actually wasn't from LinkedIn. It was from an attorney firm in Nebraska.
Mhm.
And it was a cease and desist letter. At that time, I was operating under the business name of LinkedIn Badass. And they were asking me to tear down my website, tear down my YouTube channel, tear down everything, and make LinkedIn Badass disappear from the planet or else. And the or else was not much fun.
Yep.
And I do actually have two friends that got cease and desist letters before I did, about 3 or 4 months, and both of them decided not to continue as LinkedIn consultants. They both went in different directions.
Wow.
One became a life coach, and the other one became a book developmental coach.
Mhm.
They were like, no, we're just not even going to deal with it. For me, that wasn't a choice.
Yep.
I was going to stick with what I'm doing. I love what I do. Why would I quit doing what I do? I feel I still have things to prove. I still have some pinnacle to reach someplace. So I spent 3 months scrubbing the internet of LinkedIn Badass, and 143 videos on my YouTube channel all had to be rebranded.
Mhm.
Many of them had internal visual branding. We had to go back to raw footage and start over.
Yeah. I mean, I can just imagine. Yeah. So
And my
when you told me that story, so I don't use LinkedIn in my name, but I sell myself as a featured LinkedIn content creator and a LinkedIn coach, etc. So like this show is called, Nina Goes Live, LinkedIn Straight Talk for Coaches and Creators. And if you look closely, there's now an R. I should make it a TM. So now I'm just like, and I have courses, I have the LinkedIn engagement group. I mean, any graphic I have now, if I come across it without a TM, I'm going right to Canva. I drop what I'm doing. I go to Canva, I redo it and upload it because I'm like, I cannot afford time wise, no money wise to get a cease and desist letter. And it's something that, it's like we're hanging our shingle on something that we don't control. And I mean, I'm not prone to being up at night and having sleepless nights, but it does every once in a while. There's this little like, "Ooh, what happens if LinkedIn disappears tomorrow?" And I'm like, if LinkedIn disappears tomorrow, I'm going to early retire and become an artist and just cut my expenses. I don't know, but it's really something to be. We're using all these things sometimes without thinking, right? It's like, oh, but in the end, LinkedIn is a protected brand. Facebook is a protected, they're all protected brands, and we have to be a little bit careful what we build on other people's real estate and on other people's IP, intellectual property. So yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting. I just did
yeah,
a podcast, and the podcast host asked me what I would do if LinkedIn disappeared tomorrow.
hmm
And it's an interesting question because, and personally, I think LinkedIn is going to be the platform until some sort of technology disrupts it. I
yep,
mean, back in the beginning, there were many, many, many people who got close, but LinkedIn always kind of kept the momentum a little bit ahead, and everybody else has really dropped out. And now with 1 billion strong, you know, th- I don't think anything can really out compete it unless it comes in like TikTok did and really took market share by storm.
hmm
It's going to be technology that disrupts LinkedIn. But me, I have a fantastic newsletter. So do you, Nina. Those are things that belong to us.
yep.
We own those platforms, and I think email is much more intimate than the newsfeed on LinkedIn. And
Absolutely. But they both have a completely different spot in the in your, whether you call it a flywheel or a funnel. They just have very different tasks, right? So yeah, but yes, I love my email list. But I must say I am more prone to, I discovered on route from being a filmmaker to doing what I do today, that actually there's a bit of an entertainer in me. And there's something about the aspect of creating fresh content for LinkedIn that I actually really enjoy. And I love having that today conversation with my community, um, because it's, the posts are very, very interactive, at least in my case. So I kind of really love that part about it. I want to get to Randy's question because I think we're sort of not going to circle back to that conversation. So let me put it on. It's a pretty long question. So, can you please speak to the technique to use with attorneys to pierce their armor without putting them off? In other words, from a sales perspective, how can you show attorneys your value by helping them, by informing them of what they don't know they don't know?
that is a great question. And I really think that that is where some of the storytelling comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And, it is really interesting to me that many of the attorneys, and Randy is an expert witness, he kind of falls into the same category. And I work with judges and mediators. So a lot of people that are in that legal field, usually they come to me after they've heard that a colleague has had a big win on LinkedIn.
Mm.
They're like, how come it works for so and so's firm down the street and it's not working for me?
Yeah.
And so I think that is the pierce the armor moment there. Otherwise, it's up to me to tell stories that might be appealing to whatever that person's practice area is.
Mm-hmm.
I have to tell the stories well enough that they really understand this could work for me too.
Yep. Yep. Storytelling, it's always what it comes back down to, right? Yeah. No, so true. Great questions. Randy, thank you so much. I hope you're still here to have heard the answer. Otherwise, we'll ping you and encourage you to watch the replay. So you went into renaming, but you kept the badass. So
I
um,
did.
yeah, let's talk about badassery for a little bit. Because I kind of, I love it because it's badass without being offensive. And so, is it something? So I sort of read a couple of your posts and did a little bit of poking around, of course. So badassery and women, I think there is sort of a direct correlation there, and I think women of a certain age, right?
Yes, and being able to claim the fact that you are a badass in
Mhm.
whatever service you provide or whatever your business might be. I did a newsletter over the summer about Likeable Badass. It's a book that's currently out, about women reclaiming women can be fierce and soft. And I think we have huge advantages if we can embrace both of those things, because I'm going to tell you, putting out content and doing marketing is not for the timid.
No, not for the faint of heart.
It takes a certain amount of badassery to hit that post button for the very first time.
Yeah,
And then sometimes, the slings and arrows come after something that you say. It's not very often. There's not a lot of haters on LinkedIn, but it does happen.
yeah,
And when it does happen, you have to keep that fierce warrior armor on and say, this is what I believe. And, this is me. Something else might be true for you. And
right.
that's great. Multiple truths can exist at once, and the world isn't going to blow up.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think the
so,
key here is the world is not going to blow up, right?
it,
No one's sitting there waiting for it. Like when people start showing up on video first, and they're like, all bunched up in a tiff. Which I did video marketing was sort of the first step of my reinvention when I stopped being a film producer, and because it was the natural next step. And it's like, no one sits there waiting for your next video, right? Everybody's just doom scrolling. Not that there's much of doom scrolling going on LinkedIn, although I think there is some. But it's just that idea that the exposure is there, obviously, but the exposure is not as um, intense as most people think it might be, right?
well,
So
and things disappear in the news feed so quickly that it's forgotten 20 minutes later. It didn't even happen the next day. So, and video, I mean, video is one of those things. I think it's the great sorting hat. It
mhm,
is the fastest way for your ideal clients to choose you,
yeah,
because they either like your style or they don't. And
exactly.
if they don't, they're not your ideal client, and you let them go, but you embrace all of those people who really do get you in video. It
Yeah.
is the fastest path to know, like, and trust. And there's two things that are working on LinkedIn right now, from what I can see:
Mm,
video and carousels.
yep. And micro content. I'm seeing a lot of the younger, and I think that might also be, I think there's also generational use of LinkedIn, quite
Yes.
frankly. I'm seeing, I always watch Richard von der Bloom's algorithm report. I just finished it. It only took me 3 months to comb myself through the 251 pages of it. Um, no, he's talking about the micro content, and I was like, sure. And then my business partner, who is a millennial, an early millennial, he showed me like the sky. His posts are one sentence. It's just a question, and then the entire engagement happens in the comments, right? So there's like one question. It might be something that stands out, something slightly controversial, or just a call to action, like share your screenshot of X in the comments. And then he has 200 comments because the conversation, that's where the conversation is happening, right? And I'm like, wow, I mean, that's gutsy. I'd be asking a question and then be like, is there going to be crickets, So I thought that is like hyper micro content. And I have a new client. I just, was telling you, I just signed down 22 new clients through a really successful workshop, that's hyper successful workshop that I did. And I have a couple of younger people in there, and they're using like 5-second videos.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow. I mean, I wouldn't even put makeup on for a 5-second video. Now, I hate putting makeup on. So it takes a really special occasion, like talking to you, for me to do that. But it was like, wow, okay, so that works. And probably without makeup, it would work too. Um, it's really interesting how in this workshop I just did, a couple of people were commenting with gifts, and the crowd that is my age, I'm sort of, boomer Gen Xer border, were like, this comments, and I'm like, sure. I actually asked Richard whether he had any feedback on that, and he said no, we don't run any numbers on gifts. But it's interesting, like, does a gift count as a full comment by the LinkedIn algorithm? We don't know, but
Yes.
it's a different way of communicating entirely. I mean,
Yes.
you and I probably would never think of sending a GIF as a comment on LinkedIn, right? I would imagine.
Well, true confessions. There are a couple of marketing, there's millennial marketing, there's a couple of different things that I follow on LinkedIn, and they're so funny, and they are definitely prone to answer with gifts. And so, I mean,
Mhm.
it all boils down to, who is your audience? Who are the people that you're working with? Now, I don't think attorneys are going to be answering things with gifts, and or that gifts might appeal to them, but humor will. Humor
Yeah.
definitely will. We all need a little bit of comic relief these days, so that if you can teach something, if you
Mhm.
can make a statement and also kind of make fun of it or turn it into something that's funny, or we're making fun of ourselves sometimes, that's a huge plus. But it really needs to be appropriate. And the thing that is shocking to most people is 60% of the membership on LinkedIn right now is age 25 to 34. So
Yeah.
if you are questioning why LinkedIn looks a lot more like Facebook, that might have an awful lot to do with it.
Mhm.
It's 3% are over the age of 55. Now, in our individual networks, we don't see that
Mhm.
because our networks are aging just like we are.
Yeah. We we it's a tie that us all, whether it's a success or age. Yeah.
So we just
Yeah.
don't see sometimes what's going on with the younger generations.
So you said only 3% is 55 and older?
3% of the membership globally on LinkedIn is age 55 and older. It's shocking.
Wow, that number just makes me, like, rethink my entire business model.
Well, you got to keep things light.
Yeah.
Long content still has a place. And I'll give you an example. I work with an entertainment attorney down in LA, and
Mm,
he loves doing like 3-minute videos. And I've finally gotten him down to like 2 minutes. They used to be 10 minutes. And the 2 minute and the short videos
mhm.
really work. But
Yeah.
what I did was I took his scripts and I put together long form articles for him, and people ate those up. I would combine like 3 scripts and, organize it and put some headings with it and some things like that.
Yep.
He was getting 3 times the engagement with those longer form articles. And I think with attorneys, they really do want to be more informed before they come to you in an initial consultation. No one
Mhm.
wants to be dumb.
Yeah.
So we want to know the basics before we even have a conversation with an attorney about things. We want to kind of get up to speed a little bit so that we can use that time with that attorney more effectively. So long form content is something that people consume if they're thinking about hiring an attorney. I
Yeah.
mean, when I got hit with that cease and desist, I went right straight to ChatGPT and asked a bunch of questions before I called one of my best friends who is an IP attorney and
Yeah.
represented me through all of this.
Yeah.
Um, Thank you, Elizabeth. And, so we're finding our information first
Mhm.
on the digital platform,
Yeah.
whatever it might be. It might be social media, it might be LinkedIn, it might be the website, it might be ChatGPT or Gemini or your favorite AI friend.
Mhm. Yep.
Um, so AEO, the answer engine optimization, is super important for coaches, consultants, attorneys, financial planners, people who have high level things to offer
Mhm.
to others that we want to understand before we hire the one.
Yep. Because that's a really important choice. Like, your lawyer you're going to be with that person on something that is probably of monumental importance to you. Yeah.
And scary.
And scary. Exactly. Exactly. So true. By the way, Randy Sins has written I'm just going to show it for a hot second because it's beautiful, a beautiful endorsement. I hope, Randy, you also put that on Angela's recommendations on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much, Randy.
Copy
It was
paste if
such
you
a
haven't.
joy to
Yeah.
work with you. I
Yeah.
I love working with high level professionals
Yeah.
because they really are aware of what it is that they do. It's
Yeah.
just expressing that,
Yeah.
not in technical jargon and complicated language, but in layman's terms. So it's crystal clear. This is how I can help you.
Yep. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And having, I mean, by the way, all these kinds of interactions, I have a full folder of screenshots. I keep them all, and they're a big part of my website design, and or when I'm offering courses. They're great social proof, and they're public, so they're usable. So
That's such a great idea. And
yeah.
Randy, your check is in the mail.
So I want to talk to you about something that I know woefully not enough about, and I saw it on your offerings, and you talk about it on LinkedIn a lot, which is SEO. So how important is SEO still today? It's like a five-part question. Like, why SEO on LinkedIn to begin with? How does it help? And how has it shifted in importance with the event of AI?
Well, in March, LinkedIn changed their search function
Yep.
dramatically. I mean, hashtags are no longer part
Mhm.
of the search function on LinkedIn
Yep.
anymore. In fact, I've heard from some people, Richard Bliss says that, there is some suppression if you're using too many hashtags.
Yep.
It's just not, but it's a catch 22 because the hashtags can be found on Google and other search engines.
Yep.
But LinkedIn's search function right now is so strong that it is feeding Google search and Bing and other search engines.
Yep.
So if your skills section is filled with things that you did 20 years ago and you no longer do, you're coming up in the wrong searches on LinkedIn. And
Ooh.
that's
Yep.
why I decided to offer just an optimization package. So for people who think they have a pretty good profile and it's working well for them, but they want to do a deeper dive into all the different pieces and parts, and there are many parts to SEO. Density is one of the most important on LinkedIn. If your profile is only words, the algorithms don't care. But once you start adding into the featured section video and long form content, and there's nothing stickier on LinkedIn than a podcast or a LinkedIn Live like this.
Yep.
Because just think about how many links there are out there in digital space for a
Yep.
podcast. I mean, it's probably on 5 different platforms. It's on somebody's website. It's on your website if you were the guest. You shared it onto LinkedIn. They shared it onto LinkedIn. It's on your company page on LinkedIn. It's
Mhm.
There's nothing stickier than a podcast. Talk about density. That is what the algorithms love. That's what they get excited about, not just words. So you really have to think about several dimensions of SEO.
Okay, so density. That's not a word. I mean, I know what dense means, but explain the word density to me in terms of LinkedIn and marketing terms. I'm not familiar with that.
You're going to have some keywords in your about section, in your skills section, on your headline, all over the place. And those keywords are going to be instrumental for the way LinkedIn serves you up in a search. But the algorithms are also looking for density. A word is very light fare. It's nothing. It's not even an
Yep.
appetizer. But
Okay.
if you've got a video, now that is chunky. That is what the density portion of that is.
Okay. Got it.
And now it's changing so fast. SEO is just changing dramatically fast because of AI.
Yep.
And there are two other optimizations that are becoming very prominent and more effective, especially for attorneys, is the answer engine optimization. Most searches for an attorney are going to start with a question. How do I need an LLC in the state of California? When should I hire a personal injury attorney? How does litigation work?
Yep.
If I want to file an appeal, what is the process for that? It always starts with a question. And so if you have an FAQ section on your website, you're much more likely to come up as the person answering that question, which is the beginning of somebody's search.
Okay. All
It
right.
is a whole new form of engine optimization. And I think for attorneys and coaches, consultants, how do you differentiate between financial planners and investment people? It's such a crapshoot. But if you can find somebody that can give you a clear answer in layman's terms, they
Yep.
might become the ultimate authority for you.
Yeah. Now, would it also work to have like a mini Q&A on your about
Yes,
section?
there are many ways to satisfy the answer engine optimization. And then there's generative search. You go to ChatGPT and you say, what business entity is best for this type of business?
Yep.
And if it comes up with a blog post from a certain attorney or a certain attorney firm, that's going to be your trusted advisor.
Yep.
And you may actually look them up. There's lots of different pieces and parts to both of those new forms of optimization. I'm a little bit of a geek about optimization, so I kind of go down rabbit holes with this stuff, but I love it and it works. I
Yep.
mean, the whole reason for me to join Read It is to get in on some of these discussions. We all have to bring in more challenges in our profession or we get stale.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so Labor Day weekend, I decided I was going to sign up for Read It and see if I could figure it out.
Yep.
And I did the same with Substack. And it's all because of this answer engine optimization and the generative optimization. I really wanted to get in on those conversations and learn what I could for my clients.
Yep. So Substack and Reddit, right? Yep. Okay. Very good to know. I've been on Reddit, but not my. You know what it is with dyslexia? Anything that is not really clearly designed, I cannot manage. So Reddit to me is just like one big freaking red flag.
It is a learning curve. And
Yeah.
so I used ChatGPT every single day to help me navigate because I'm not going to do it myself.
Yep. Yep.
So,
Yeah. I mean, and now we have all these fantastic tools, right? So yeah.
well, and now it's been 5-6 weeks. And I think by week 2 or 3, I really started to crack the code and really start to get building up karma. That's one of the things there is on Reddit. And really starting to get people to engage with some of the answers that I was offering up and finding the right communities for what I'm interested in.
That's great. That's great. Okay, now you're making me curious. We have one more question, which is sort of off topic, but I want to go to it anyway, because we were talking about how important video is. The few times I posted short video lately, it takes hours for LinkedIn to make it live. I mean, make it not live, but make it show up in the as a post. Diane, if you're still listening, or replay, whichever, you want to look at the format of your video. It could very well be that you're rendering it out at a very high resolution. So if you're rendering it out as an MOV, try maybe an MP4. And if you're rendering it out from a app on your phone, make sure that it's not like a crazy big file size. Like, there's no reason to be shooting in or editing in 4K. Total loss of way too much information, because all the social media platforms dumb it down to 720 uh, I anyway. So I normally render out at 1080. That's still HD, but a lower version of HD. So I would venture to guess that your files are just way too big. So play around with that and see whether that helps you.
And you want to make sure that you're uploading it directly into LinkedIn. LinkedIn hates it when you
Yes.
take people elsewhere. So if it's a
Yeah.
Vimeo or a YouTube, that is really not going to go anywhere.
No external links. Yeah. Yeah. You have to upload it natively, which I think she's doing. She's a client of mine. So I would think that she is uploading natively. But yeah, make sure that you also are actually uploading it to LinkedIn, which I think is why it's taking so long. If and Angela, if that didn't answer it, hit me up on Heartbeat. I'll be happy to continue the conversation there. We are running out of time. It's always like, I'm like, this show's going to be shorter. No, it's not. Um, Anywho, so we kind of preempted the question, but I was sort of at the end like to ask, who are you following on LinkedIn? Like who? I mean, we want people to follow us as the experts, but we need to be following people too. So who do you recommend to follow on LinkedIn? And I want to plant the seed. Who are some of the fun younger crowd that you were mentioning earlier? Are there any good tidbits there? That you can
Well, Richard Vanderbloom and Richard Bliss for sure.
Yeah.
And there are several other LinkedIn experts that I follow, and their names are escaping me at the moment. But if you go and type in LinkedIn expert, there are so many to follow for different reasons. I mean, there's someone for everyone.
Yep, I agree.
And some of the marketing that I follow, the marketing millennials or the millennial marketing, I can't remember which way that goes, but they're hilarious. They use memes and that sort of thing. And there is one attorney that uses a lot of SpongeBob SquarePants stuff. He's a high level white collar crime litigator, and I cannot use his name. I don't have permission to do that. But once you find somebody that's really interesting, make sure that you go to their profile and ring the bell, ring that little bell so that you're sure that you're getting their content in your news feed. My next newsletter is actually going to be about customizing your news feed so that you don't see what you don't want to see.
I will definitely look at that. Yeah.
Well, and it's easy to do, but you have to be diligent about it.
Yeah.
Every time you see something that you don't like, you have to hit the hide button on it or go to their profile and unfollow that person.
Oh, okay. That's draconic. Okay.
You can stay connected as a first connection, but if you don't need to see them posting every single day about something that's not in your industry, it's easy to
unfollow. Yeah, got it. All right, great. And then my last question is, what is the biggest mistake you see people make on LinkedIn, or phrased differently, what really pisses you off when people do it on LinkedIn?
I think the biggest mistake that most people make on LinkedIn is kind of twofold. They think that they have to adopt some sort of a business persona when they're on LinkedIn, and that it's all about them. And it is not about you. LinkedIn is not about you, not first and foremost. It is about who you serve and what problem you solve for them. You are talking one-to-one with your ideal client.
Yeah.
It really, the biggest mistake that most professionals make is that they have to establish credibility. You do that by being accessible and giving people actionable things to do, not by saying, I just won this case. I mean, that's great, but then highlight how that happened and who helped you with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's very, very true, because it shows you how you're going to be as a person to work with as well, right? It kind of gives people a preview. Yeah.
Are you going to listen or are you going to talk?
Yeah. Excellent. After we've just talked for 45 minutes. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and your and just the lovely
It's a
conversation.
pleasure.
And there's so much more. I still had more questions, but I also know that everybody needs to get back to work and cannot listen to us go on forever. But to the audience, thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you for being so interactive and asking questions. That's very much appreciated and makes it so much more fun. And Angela, thank you so much for showing up and for sharing some of your wisdom. There's obviously a lot more there than what we could sort of scratch the surface with for these 45 minutes. And we will be back in a month with a new guest, and hope you will join us again. And I'll make sure to advertise it on LinkedIn so you all know who it is and when we go live again. So thank you, everybody. And please, if you're watching the replay, the comments are still being monitored. If you mention Angela and me, we'll definitely see it and give you answers to your questions.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.